And the economic pillar is the one, if you make it stronger, it pulls along the social pillar. And I think the key issues around that are competitiveness. Being globally competitive. If we as Kenya are globally competitive, we have no fear of imports, we have no fear of people coming and taking us. We actually could produce for the whole world. I think this is a key issue, competitiveness. I don't need to tell you this because I think it comes back in your language, and I think ultimately this item, even today, and I just want to put it into context, I'll stray away for a moment, the Russia-Ukraine war is actually telling us right now, get competitive and start producing for the world, because commodity prices have gone through the roof. I think everything that we can produce here could be much more better. So I think we just need to look at that. The second thing was public safety, and I think this is around ensuring that in the manifestos, public safety, you know, your transport, your housing, people can still go to work and still have a peaceful era. I mean, I see my MCAs, and MCAs have 3-4 bodyguards and chase cars, and I think, I actually say to them, and why do you need all that? Because you're amongst your own people. So I think this whole thing about public safety needs to be there from the top to the bottom and say, guys, come on, we're together on this one. I think the outcome of this is to have a transparent, accountable system that really pushes through. And ultimately, the social pillar. And I think I want to end on this note to say, the social pillar is about having peaceful elections and a smooth transition. I think this is what really is the message that everyone in this country is waiting for, and that's what we're trying to say, inspire them. Again, building on the same thing of building Wajibu Wetu. So even if I'm standing as MCA or whatever, whichever party, whatever I'm doing, I'm still saying that we will not be part of hate speech, we will all be part of it together. And yes, compete. May the best people win. But that does not mean that we become violent and we start saying, let me kill my brother or my sister or whatever. At the end of the day, if I'm O positive, I'm a universal donor, I can still give blood, depending on, it doesn't depend on what my tribe is, because that's not what they ask for. We will have peace pledges being signed, and that'll be one thing. Ultimately, I want to end on this note that what we're looking for is simply this. It's good leadership and accountable governance in place for a prosperous, thriving, and peaceful country. Thank you very much. We all have one slogan that we talk about, and we have our slogans is Nitatenda Wajibu Wangu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vimal. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, we recognize your presence. Thank you for joining us. So as mentioned by Dr. Vimal, part of the Kenya Daima initiative is meeting with all the presidential candidates and sharing our aspirations as the private sector and what we'd like to see happening this year and beyond after the elections. He's mentioned on Nitatenda Wajibu Wangu, and I would request all of us to say it as a pledge that we agree to that statement. Let us go Nitatenda Wajibu Wangu. Stronger, please. Nitatenda Wajibu Wangu. Thank you. That is the call from Kenya Daima Initiative. His Excellency, the Deputy President, William Ruto, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, let me just say, all protocols having been observed, good morning. I'm pleased and honored as the KEPSA chair to be welcoming you to the launch of our economic manifesto. Kenya's private sector is actually made up of firms that are of varying sizes and activities, big, small, national, regional, all players that exhibit an ability to be adaptive and responsive to markets, to innovate, and to find ways to seize opportunities and survive. You actually have the list in front of you of all the members that we have. So the private sector remains a major driver of Kenya's economy, and we appreciate the government's role in creating the physical, regulatory, and policy infrastructure that is so critical to enabling commercial and economic activity. We are also appreciative of the policy dialogue framework between government and the private sector. Indeed, this dialogue has its origins in the roundtables in the 2008-2013 Grand Coalition government. As the private sector, we have seen great strides over the years. For example, we've seen the ease of doing business, something I know you're very passionate about. moving from, I think it was one something to about 56. We have it right now. Our annual GDP growth rate averages 5.9. Public-private dialogue has improved greatly. One only needs to drive around to see the infrastructure development we have in the country. Not to mention access to markets that we have continued to grow and develop over the years that we have seen. We would, however, not be doing justice to the cause of promoting Kenya's economic development if we didn't lend our voice to the opportunities and challenges in doing business in Kenya, which either accelerate or slow down our drive to build a sustainable economy for all. Addressing policy and institutional constraint to private sector growth will be paramount to growing our nation. We need to deal with a burdensome array of taxes and regulations, the inconsistent and unpredictable regulatory and policy directives that make it difficult to plan and execute. Sometimes we feel challenged by officials who seem to view the private sector as best as merely a source of revenue, and more usually with suspicion, as though we, the private sector and government, do not have the same objective and hopes for our Kenya. Financing private sector development are also areas we have seen great growth in, and supporting SMEs as the engine for growth is also another sector that we have seen remarkable growth. Leadership, political will, implementation capacity, and institutional frameworks are essential for creating and advancing meaningful shared value. But paramount is the trust between the public and private sector, which can only be built through structured and open communication, inclusive dialogue, participation and accountability, and through collaborative efforts to understand each other. Therefore, we hope that this engagement today will provide you with the platform to listen to our issues and to propose solutions to the challenges that are holding back our economic potential. It is no secret that there is a scramble for Africa right now, and we have seen Kenya perfectly positioned as the hub and gateway to seize this opportunity. We need to position ourselves to ensure that we take advantage, and we are at the front line this time round to reap the tangible benefits as Kenya and as Africa as a whole. With government creating an enabling environment, private sector will be able to and cast our eyes not only our borders, but Africa as a whole. The time to do that is now. And I'll leave you with a quote from Abraham Lincoln, who said, "Government is of the people, by the people, and for the people, and it shall not perish from the earth." Sorry, a government, didn't say it properly, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish.
Indeed, thank you, our Chair. She has called upon the strengthening of the public-private dialogue and also looking at enhancing the economy of this country. So before I call upon our CEO, we will do some pre-claps, because after this our CEO will then invite our key guest and take the program from there. We will do Atama. Atama is one clap, and to appreciate Dr. Vimal and also Ms. Flora Mutahi, we will do 3 Atamas. Atama, our CEO, karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Ruto, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and the presidential candidate of Kenya Kwanza, all protocols having been observed, good morning. As I was sitting there, I remembered something. When the coalition government came to power, I was sitting in the office and I got a call on the landline, and I picked it. And the voice on the other side said, "Good morning, Carol." And I said, "Good morning." And he said, "Do you know who's speaking?" And I said, "No." He said, "My name is William Ruto, and I'm the Minister of Education." And I'd like to meet with Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and we see what we can do in education. And that's where our relationship began. So Asante for working with being with us. So I'll begin by a little bit of, I don't have to introduce KEPSA to many of us, but it's good for those who have not engaged with us, for me just to say one or two. Of the existence of KEPSA, and I've been there for 15, so I'm as old as KEPSA. KEPSA has brought the private sector together and provided leadership in policy and partnership in national development with government and other stakeholders. I was also reminding the Honorable Nanok that when they held the first Turkana festival, I went for that. And for me, it was amazing. I don't think we ever thought what's that side of the country and what it can bring. And I think that is what made me realize there's so much business in every part of our country. As I saw them showcase the different things that the Turkana could be. I'd gone there with Talo. I don't know if they're present here. But I think what I realized that every county of ours has so much potential. And I think it was alluded earlier by Vimal and by Flora, that we are actually self-sufficient and we can feed the world. And so as an organization, we try to bring together foreign businesses, local businesses, associations, chambers of commerce, professional bodies, corporates, SMEs, startups from all sectors of the economy, so that we can speak in one voice when engaging government, development partners, and other stakeholders on cross-cutting issues, because each of these associations has a mandate to speak for themselves, to engage on their issues, the particular issues. But when we need a voice to come together and speak as private sector, then we come together as KEPSA. We also support businesses with opportunities for training, networking, financial linkages, and this we did a lot, especially with COVID, mentorship and coaching, access to markets and value chains, as well as inbound and outbound global investment opportunities. And I think over the years, we've done a lot of that with government and other stakeholders. And so we have a widespread membership, and those are some of the associations. I think the list of our membership is all on your tables, so you can see all the different associations that make KEPSA, and then all the different corporates. And so we have a reach of over 1 million businesses in Kenya that at least we interact with on an everyday. Those are our platforms that we engage with. The Deputy President is very familiar with them, and so I will not go into the details, but we have created over the years. It started with President Kibaki. That time we only were doing the ministerial stakeholder forums, and then we moved to roundtables with the Prime Minister and the President, and again roundtables, and then all the different structures. And we have engaged with the many ones who have here. I remember even the COG, during Dr. Nanok's time, we did have a lot of engagement and hope we can continue to engage through that. In terms of our manifesto, Your Excellency, we are looking at 5 thematic areas, and I know they are non-new. They are areas we've engaged with you before. The first one is powering jobs and wealth and inclusive wealth creation. The second one is deepening social transformation to bridge inequalities. The third one is enhancing governance and economic stability. The fourth one, investing in cutting-edge innovation and research and development. The fifth one is creating a globally competitive business environment, and I think that was touched on as part of Kenya Daima, and that's why we're here. We're taking that chunk of Kenya Daima and implementing it as the private sector. The private sector is truly the driving force of economic growth, as we all know. Wealth formation and job creation in Kenya and the world. And in the short term to medium term, KEPSA will look at coalescing all these efforts highlighted in the private sector economic manifesto to deliver the economic, political, and social pillars of Vision 2030. We have 8 years to Vision 2030, so anything we are doing now has to be 10 times more transformational than we've done before, so that we achieve our goals. And how we intend to do it, we do the National Business Agenda. Again, the Deputy President is very aware of that, and we create that in every 5 years, and the economic manifesto is part of that, and then we bring the MTPs, which is the medium-term plans of the Vision 2030, the SDGs, and the other private sector development priorities, and that is what the document we use in engaging the government. We play a critical role in inspiring jobs. This is the first pillar priority, with their creation, particularly in the digital and circular economies. If there's any areas that we're going to grow jobs, Your Excellency, is in these 2 areas, by seeing how everyone is included. And I will give some examples. Between 2015 and 2019, the number of organizations that had online presence almost doubled. There was also an 87% increase in registered digital organizations. From one of the programs that we ran with the Ministry of ICT and e-mobility supported by MasterCard Foundation, we found that in 2021 that already 1.2 million Kenyans are either digital. In 2020, there were over 677,000 people employed in the digital age. That is a whole $109 million. And the 33% increase of that will really make a lot of difference in the next 5 years. And those are some of the companies that have been there. So what do we need from government? Operationalize the 5-step roadmap within Kenya's digital economy strategy to continue to foster a strong, enabling environment. As our young people get out of school and get into this space, let them find an environment that is conducive for them. A second part of this is leveraging cluster-based approach to enhance value chains development in productive sectors, which is sector generation of job and wealth creation. And I know you're very passionate about the SMEs. Value addition in several key productive SME sectors, including agro-processing, leather, construction, and IT-related sectors, could substantially increase productivity, jobs, and broader economic prosperity. County-based clusters are a promising approach to effectively unlock and expand new value chains. By one, increasing modernization and formalization. The second one, improving quality and standards. The third one, crowding in investors. And in the fifth one, improving participation in global value chains. I'll give a good example. A case in point. Launching food processing hub in Mombasa to process imported agro-based products, e.g. wheat, palm oil, and rice. Only one can do this, and the number of jobs will be amazing. Or launch agro-processing zones in counties like Kisumu, Meru, Nakuru, Kwale to process local commodities, e.g. mango, cassava, peas. The current percentage of processed agricultural exports, we are lagging behind our neighbors. Uganda is at 34%, Tanzania 24%. Multiplied this by 2, just 2%, times 2 would add another 110,000 jobs and an additional $600 million in GDP. But it doesn't have to be only 2 times, it can be more. So what are we looking at what government can do in this area? Invest in at least 3 to 5 flagship agro-processing projects, agropolis, agro-industrial parks, and logistic hub to get priority value chains on the ground. Develop and adequately fund the Biashara Bank. I know Your Excellency remembers discussing the Biashara Bank in one of the presidential roundtables, and credit guarantee scheme to support SMEs, particularly in delivering vision scale up. The third one that we could do in this area is government to prioritize local procurement through Vision 2030 projects to deliver transformative sector development and job creation. Government can leverage large procurement budgets through Vision 2030 projects to grow and scale up SMEs by one, procuring only, sorry. Hope it's okay. Procuring only what is made in Kenya, both by local and foreign organizations. Because today when we say procuring what is in Kenya, we bring in from all countries, Turkey, China, and everywhere else, and call it Kenyan products. And yet those are not Kenyan. And procured what is made in Kenya would really grow this sector. Actualizing supply chain linkages pegged on the 30-40% local content policy in government projects, and ensuring the SMEs are directly engaged substantially in government projects, such as roads, housing, within the value chains of large enterprises who tend to win these contracts. Then we could go into what we would call the demand-driven approach to consumption, which can facilitate rapid growth and formalization of SMEs, leading to increased revenue regeneration for government to offer services. I've given this example before, but let me give it again. For example, in the affordable housing, instead of having one contract being won by one contractor, you can break it down. The big contract can be taken whoever wins the tender, but we can break it down. People can do doors, hinges, and all, and that can be given to our local people. What does that do? It creates jobs, it creates revenue for these people, it formalizes the SMEs without thinking very hard, because then for them to win that contract, they have a paper they can go to with to government and get money. But to be able to do that, they have to form a company, and that makes them formalize without us pushing them to formalize. They can access formal financing avenues, e.g. loans. They can increases their disposable income, leading to business growth. And one of those cases is the Kamukunji Juakali association that did that. And today they're a company. They were able to own some of those affordable housing, and they were able to have more disposable income, and then we make a project. That way we have grown everyone with one project. So action points to local increased procurement, Treasury to use the local content policy under Buy Kenya, Build Kenya to fully entrench it in the preference and reservation regulations. Public Service Ministry to monitor and report on implementation of the local content. Ensure strict enactment of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act to minimize delayed payments, both public and private sectors, to businesses. Empower the Competition Authority to Kenya to deal with the late payments to businesses to increase. And I'm sure you've heard all the cries for all businesses in terms of comprehensive social continuous investment in critical interventions. If we are our society, one, can we expand existing social welfare services, also of others, to adequately support Kenyans and reduce reliance on vulnerable nets? This will enable a higher access to social welfare services and enhancing well-being and overall quality of life. Many times we'll find people reject development because it's going to get them out of the business or out of work. But if they knew there was a social safety net to hold them as they figure out what next, because much development as we have seen before. And so just having those social services. Provision of adequate access to quality health and education services. What this does, even for the private sector, is that we have adequate supply of quality employees and staff if they are well trained and they have the right education, but also reduces the cost of health, not only for business, but for the country, and then the labor productivity. So as much as this is good for the country, if businesses are going to grow, we have to do this. So can we invest and say, what you can find in public sector in terms of education, in terms of health, you can find in public, so that we can close that inequality. Continuous development and investment in the security sector so that it's people-centered and we use digital technologies within security and judicial processes so that we can increase effectiveness and timely delivery of justice, leading to enhanced stability and social cohesion. Development of a reliable public system. We all miss the days of Stagecoach, Kenya Bus, and it's about time that we started facilitating, and so that everyone can be integrated in that. Because what it does, it increases productivity, it increases order, it also increases disposable income due to the lower cost of transport. So today, instead of me employing 3 people, I employ 1, not because I don't want to, but I can't afford. Cost of housing, the cost of education, the cost of transport that makes them want to be paid more. But if we reduce that, we'll increase jobs, because then I can employ more people because they don't need as much for living standards. Concerted government support to establish modernized markets in all towns and cities for local producers and vendors with access to social amenities. This will allow them to access value chains, business support and formalization, public health, and 24-hour security. It's a pain to see our traders on the streets, not having social amenities, to see them running every day from what we call kanjo in our local language, every day. This will, but then when we put them in the markets, then we'll increase their wealth and income opportunities. Then we'll also link them with other big businesses. And the third one is enhancing governance and economic stability, which will improve public services and investor confidence. Poor governance and corruption stifle economic and social development, which contributes to reduced inefficiencies of businesses and the economy at large. This increases the cost of running businesses, increases distortion in public expenditures, we tax entrepreneurship because we need a little tax to be able to fund the inefficiencies in government, lowers the quality of public infrastructure because then we need much more to be able to get good infrastructure, decreases tax revenues, and discourages foreign investments, leading to decrease in FDI. And as a country, when we look at the region, we're actually still lagging behind in terms of FDI from our neighbors, and we need to look at that. Kenya state corporations face challenges in both their financial performance and operational efficiencies. And so this is another area that if we look at the inefficiencies in the governance structure, then we could also help the state corporations so that we're not always using so much budgetary to support them from Treasury. And so we are looking to support both internal and government initiatives that promote ethics and integrity to improve efficiency and advocate for reform. One, implementing the Presidential Task Force, of which, Your Excellency, you remember and were all part of it, to report to provide greater governance and physical monitoring. Re-engineer government processes using blockchain technology to increase transparency and efficiency and reduce costs in public service provision. Ensure that all debt is earmarked for mitigating budget shortfalls and delivering Vision 2030, not consumption. If we borrow to eat, even in our homes, then we never really move. So if we looked at a country like a home, like a family, then we would do differently, even with the debt. Implement the Bribery Act 2016. This will curb private sector corruption. We really worked so hard for this act, and we are glad that now we do have the regulations, but we really wanted it to be operationalized. Ensure the 10-point agenda on corruption developed by the multi-agency task force considered in 2015 is actually implemented and enforced. Follow through the actions and commitments, of which I remember, Your Excellency, you were part of that, the National Anti-Corruption Conference in 2019 with all the sectors. We all made commitments. Hold us responsible. It shouldn't be only a government affair. What did private sector commit? What did civil society commit? What did the religious sector commit in this area? Raise the judiciary budget from 0.06% to the global benchmark, at least the global benchmark of 2.25%, to facilitate effective and timely prosecution of cases. Judiciary should not only be for the people in this room, should be for Wanjiku and everyone else. So could we at least increase their budget so that we can have courts in every part of this country and accessible justice? Enhance Kenya's trade and investment competitiveness locally, regionally, and internationally. We are also happy to work with you to build the capacity of state and private sector corporations to implement anti-corruption compliance measures to improve corporate governance and boost our investment confidence by undertaking regular corruption risk mapping surveys and implementing mitigative measures to address emerging challenges. The fourth one, invest in cutting-edge research and development is required to facilitate rapid economic transformation. There's no country that can develop without research. We all depend, many organizations, and I know some are represented here, come and pay for a lot of research here because they take it back to their own countries and use it to really determine what they do with us, what they do with their own countries. If we spend a little budget, even just less than 1% in our research, in our R&D, we will discover what we have as this country. We will be able to use our own innovations. Young people are innovating every day. Instead of those innovations being based out in Delaware and everywhere else, if we could harness those innovations, then this country will transform. And we are happy to say that we can work with academia, with government, and be able to harness these innovations so that our private sectors who are in this room and elsewhere can feed into this R&D and be able to increase and grow. Because what we are looking for is that scale up. If you're a small business, you scale up. If you're a big business, you scale up. We want our own multinationals grown here. I always say every micro-enterprise is the multinational, it's the Microsoft of tomorrow. And so we need to scale up our own businesses. And so we are happy to collaborate and seek commitments from all ministries, counties, and industry to support research and development, its spending in budgets, and initiate discussions and negotiations in the East African community region for the creation of the digital single market, so that as a whole area, then we can do that. And increase adoption of research and development to result in diversification and value addition, leading to accelerated industry growth. Industry growth, due to the enhanced research and development adoption, will leapfrog economic expansion. We will get to our Vision 2030. We don't have to wait for the 8 years. We can get it in the next 5 years if we all align our universities and our diploma colleges on emerging information and on ICT, increase investments, form a comprehensive strategy for technologies transfer. Whatever we are building here, Can we take it to other countries in Africa? Should they also have to train when we have our own? We bring other people from other countries to run some of our big projects. If we actually train right here and do technology transfer, then we can build Africa from Kenya. Providing STEM. Again, no country develops without science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And you're a doctor of science, so you understand very well why this is important. And so uptake in universities and tutors is great partnership with business, and we'll be happy to work on that. And the last one, the last priority, is to foster globally competitive business environment that addresses both the cost of starting a business and the growth of an enterprise. We do not want the same cycle of an SME starts, in 3 years, 5 years, it dies off. We want them to grow as enterprises. And some of the things that we have found as market failures in Kenya, one is land and property rights, procedures to register property, issues with the land registry, and delayed land information management. I know there's a lot of work that's happening there, but we really need to ensure that it's a smooth process so that businesses can be able to start businesses and move, without hinges. Tax administration, time, cost, and the complexity and number of taxes within the tax regime. It's impossible to run a business with the number of taxes that we have to deal as a country. We need a new tax regime. SME taxation. We've reverted to the tax regime to 16% and introduction of digital and minimum taxes, which only increase costs for SMEs. Again, for SMEs, can we start with a simple tax or at least a grace period and say, if you start a business in this area, this is your grace period. In this area, it's your grace period. And then you grow from there. Because once businesses grow, government will have the revenue it needs. Starting a business, despite improvements, Kenya's doing business ranking on registration. Starting the business is still poor compared to our regional best performers. Business licensing, permits, and inspections. In 2006, we did a guillotine of licenses. They're all back. So it's about time again we went back. Otherwise, we'll continue to kill our businesses or remain small. There's no reason why 80% of our businesses are SMEs, but they only contribute less than 30% of our GDP. It should be consumerate of the many businesses we have that. So let's again look at how we can guillotine those licenses that are all back, because once we grow the businesses, the revenues will come. So the interventions, remove multiple taxes at national and county levels. I think this is a conversation first. We've had so much. We've even done the county, I'm even forgetting the name of the bill that we did, the resource revenue bill. It's been in place. If we could look at that, and so it analyzes all those taxes and what we can do with them. And urgently develop a new tax law. We have an old tax law that focuses on tax revenue, not enabling businesses to grow and looking at the revenue from there. Enhance enforcement of tax evasion regulation by using PIN numbers to track evaders, so that we expand that space, so that we are not only going for a few. We're not looking here and we see Vimal or we see Flora and we know where their businesses are and we go for them. There are many who are doing similar businesses, but they are not in a tax bracket. Develop a new policy to remove VAT refunds. It's been cumbersome. I know you remember these conversations many times under the round tables about VAT refunds. And we've been having a conversation with KRA, and even for them, they are ready to say, can we think of something else that's different so that we remove the issue of refunds? Formulate a simple tax for SMEs, as I mentioned, so that we stimulate growth and enhance compliance. What will this do? We'll have increased enterprise growth, we'll have increased revenues, we'll have increased jobs and wealth creation, and we'll have increased compliance, and we'll stop having Kanjo and NMS and everyone else running around for SMEs. So with that, the few things that we have, more of the interventions that we have to do in this is, again, turn regulators to business enablers. Many times we are always running around with NEMA and everyone else because they police instead of enable. And we know there are always bad potatoes, but let's pick the bad potatoes without policing everyone and merge those with similar mandates. We have so many regulators that have similar mandates. If we could merge them, that will really reduce the cost for government and the cost for compliance. Reduce the licenses to one business license, increase investment in renewable energy. We're doing well as a country. We're at 90% of renewable and green energy. To get to 100%, the 10%, we can, by the national determined commitments, there's so little that we need to do, but to make a difference for us, even as we committed in COP26. create a Ministry of Economy. There are countries that, many countries have this, because how do we bring all these efforts together? Because we realize they're all being done by different areas, so that we focus on planning, development, strategy for economic transformation, and consolidate government policy on economic development. This will improve investor confidence. This is local and foreign investors. An SME needs to feel confident that I can invest in this country and grow. Then we'll increase access to markets, both local and international, because we'll have dealt with some of those issues. Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to invite Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Ruto, to also share some of his aspirations. You've heard from us as a private sector what we are looking towards, and we know this is a great country. We've done so much. There's more we can do. Also, as we look at
Thank you very much, Carol. Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, the chair of KEPSA, Madam Mutahi, Caro, the CEO, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's always a pleasure to engage with business people. And this morning, I am happy that I have an opportunity to listen to business. As Caro has said, we have had a relationship from the days of the Grand Coalition government to the days of the Jubilee administration. And today, I have come here both as Deputy President, but as also a candidate in this election. And I've had to, and I am happy to have listened to the presentation that has been made by Caro. And I will just say a few things. Just listening to Caro, it took me back to when I was appointed Minister for Agriculture. When I went to the Ministry of Agriculture in 2008, I found that the things that need to be done are already in government books, and we didn't need anything new to be able to get the ministry running. We just needed to roll up our sleeves and provide leadership, and things would change. And many people told me then I had a man called Romano Kiome, who many people thought he was a very difficult person. And many people asked me, how are you going to work with this guy? But I found Romano a very good Kenyan, because he was determined on delivery. And many people did not like being pushed to deliver. Listening to Caro and the team this morning, I am also clear that what needs to be done in Kenya, you don't need to invest in any research. It's already in our books. Many of the things that need to be done are already known, and all that is required now is the necessary leadership to deliver on the things that we already know should be done. And that is what this election is going to be about. My own perspective on the presentation that has been made and the place where we are as a country. I remember saying 3 years ago that we are going to change the conversation in Kenya. That's not going to be about leaders. It's not about changing the constitution. It's not going to be about sharing power, but it's going to be about the people. It's not going to be about changing the constitution. It's going to be about changing the economy. It's not going to be about sharing power. It's going to be about how to empower the citizens of our country. And that's where we are today. We have pushed the conversation in the political space to the place where we are today. We are discussing the economy. From the Kenya Kwanza bottom-up economic model to all the array up to where our other friends are. And I am a very proud Kenyan that we are having a conversation in this election about the economy. It couldn't have been any better. I know there is an attempt to still continue to bring back the discussion about changing the constitution, creating a few more positions, creating a position of ombudsman to supervise the judiciary, giving additional power to the president to be able to manage the judiciary and to manage the legislature. But I am very confident that the people of Kenya will make the correct decision, and that what we need to change in this election is not the constitution, but the economy. And why the economy from where I sit? The way to move Kenya to the next level, as has been ably articulated by Caro, is how to relook at the whole spectrum of our economy. From the Kenya Kwanza perspective, we believe that the first step towards everything you have said here is how to capitalize the private sector. That's the whole essence. If you ask me what bottom-up is, it's about how to capitalize the private sector. I know when we say capitalize the private sector, many people wonder whether we are talking about capitalizing the corporates. That's not what we are discussing. We are discussing about having a limited resource base. How do you deploy the resources we have where we can get the highest return? Highest return in terms of creating jobs, highest return in terms of creating opportunity, highest return in terms of creating wealth, and highest return in terms of how we can move everybody to the next level. From the Kenya Kwanza perspective, we believe that the limited resources we have, the way to get the highest return is to deploy in areas that not only give us quick returns, but also the highest returns. And where are these areas? You've heard us say the lowest hanging fruit is in the agricultural space and in the micro and small enterprise space. If we deploy resources, public resources that is, in that sector of the private sector, we will then not only get to increase their productivity and get a quicker return, but we will then create a market. So it's about increasing our productivity and expanding the market for everybody. Let me maybe put it much more clearly. We believe that agriculture being the low-hanging fruit, deploying public resources in increasing the productivity of our farmers is the easiest place to begin. Why? Because number one, whether it is crops, we have the farmers already in place. They are already doing it. If it is maize, they are producing 5 bags per acre. We can make them produce 15 in one season. If we make sure they have the correct seed, and we make sure they have access to affordable fertilizer, we will increase their productivity. Milk, for example. We are the largest producer of milk in this continent. We produce 5 billion liters of milk every year. But on average, per cow, we produce between 3 and 4 kilos per cow. With quality seed, with quality feed, we can increase the productivity of every cow from 3 to 15 or 20. That way, we can take it, even if we double it to 10 billion liters. Milk can easily overtake horticulture, can easily overtake tea in terms of our foreign exchange earner. And we have the market for it in this continent. This continent imports milk from New Zealand and all manner of places. I slipped a bit the other day. I was having a session in Nyeri, and I was trying to talk about DRC, where we have 90 million people. But I was misquoted. I was trying to say, DRC, we enjoy their music. They can also enjoy our milk, you know, because they are a big market, and they are actually a potential market. Why do I say it's a hanging fruit? We have the cows. The farmers are already doing it. Only that they are producing 3 kilos. From the same cow, they can produce 10, 15 kilos. And we can double or even triple our milk production. So this is the sector that has the lowest hanging fruit. Why do I say that? We can increase the productivity of our crop farmers in one season. We can increase the productivity of our cows within 2-3 months. So that's the place, in our opinion, where if you invest, if you deploy, the problem with that space is capital. They don't have the money to do it. And we need to deploy capital and support that sector. What does it do? We have close to 6 million. Anyway, 60% of Kenyans do some sort of farming. Even the people in this room. Everybody here is some sort of a farmer. Yeah, I'm sure Amureu does something, and all the other people. So that's where the bigger portion of our population is, and we can, if we enhance the productivity of that sector, we will also expand the market for everybody. And that's why we believe that sector is the easiest sector to begin to stimulate our economy. We have done very well with the deployment of infrastructure. Our second term was about the Big Four, many of you know. And one of the pillars of the Big Four was agriculture. And what we wanted to achieve in agriculture is to increase the productivity of our agricultural sector. Unfortunately, we haven't quite done what we wanted to do. And I know everybody here knows why. We got a bit busy with the BBI project and took a bit of our time. And unfortunately, it ended at a place called null and void. That is the sector that can give us quick returns. Number two, we also believe that the small and micro space, as Caro has said here, is another place where we have opportunity. If we capitalize the micro, because what's the situation? 800 young people join the job market, or the labor market every year. Corporates hire 50,000. Medium corporates and enterprises hire another 150, maybe 200,000. So we have a whole 600,000 people every year joining the labor market. But because there is no space, they go to this micro and small enterprise space where their income is $1, maybe $2, maybe $3 on a good day. And that whole sector has a big challenge in the space of capital. I've had occasion to interact with many people in that space. I remember, for example, I went to Ruaka, and a lady there called Shiko talked to me and said, you see, Mr. Hustler, what we do here, we borrow 1 million shillings every day in this market. 10. Why? That's the credit they can access. Of course, all of you are aware that we have 15 million Kenyans here. That announcement was made by His Excellency the President in Parliament a few months ago. Reason? Access to credit by the micro, small enterprise people. Because Fuliza charges them 6% per day. So if we capitalize that micro, small space, instead of them paying 1,000, 3,600% per year, if they paid 10% like the people sitting in this room, or 15% with the people sitting in this room, and we did what Caro said here, we provided them good space for them to do their enterprise, build good markets, make sure that they have a decent space to operate from, make sure that there is law that protects their business. They are not running from Kanjo and the rest of the guys. Those people can move from $2, $3 to $6, $7 per day. that is a space where we have opportunity. What does that do? Putting a little money in those two areas, because we have limited resources. You know, we have limited resources, and if you have limited resources, you deploy them in the place where you have the quickest and possibly the highest return. We've discussed the Biashara Bank forever. Yeah, that's why I have said when or if elected, we will put the first 50 billion shillings in the fund for micro and small enterprise for them to have access to credit. And we will continue until we saturate the absorption in that space. Just by access to credit, they can increase their incomes by at least $2 every day, because access to credit consumes that much from the people in that sector. So the bottom-up economic model is basically about access to capital in the private sector, expanding the market, and making sure that if all the farmers increase their productivity, they will be a market for the people in the corporate world. If we make sure that the 80%, Caro said, of the people in the micro and small small enterprise, if we increase their productivity and increase their income, they will also become a market for the people in the manufacturing sitting in this room, the people in all the other spaces sitting in this room, and that increased productivity creates opportunities for the people sitting in this room for agro-processing, value addition, and the whole chain going up. That also gives us an opportunity to expand the tax base so that we can create a bigger pool of people who have resources and who can pay tax. And we don't have to rely on a few people today who we are running after and sometimes harassing them. Once we expand at the bottom, more people who are able to pay tax because we have enhanced their productivity in the agricultural sector. We have built an opportunity for agro-processing and value addition and build the value chains. And on the other hand, we have the 10 million people who are in the micro and medium enterprise space. If those 10 million people, we increase their income from the $2 to $6 or $7, in 7 years, we will double the size of our economy from where I sit. Yeah? And these are not difficult decisions because I have served in government and I know how decisions can actually change our whole country. I say so because when we came into office in 2013, we made very simple decisions. For example, what you guys are talking about, the infrastructure in the country. How did we build more roads with the same amount of money? We changed the building code. Today, we have 3 different categories of roads. We have the trunk roads, they are built to a different standard. We have the stage construction roads, they are built to a different standard. We have the low volume roads that we have built to a different standard. We just needed to change the road building regulations, and where we were building a kilometer at 80 million, when it went to low volume, we are building it at 20 million. So for 1 kilometer, we could be able to build 4 kilometers with the same resources. So I'm just telling you that to give you the possibilities if we made the right decision. And the reason why we have doubled the number of paved road from 11,000 kilometers in 2013 to 22,000 kilometers in 2022 is because of that simple decision of changing the building code. Let me give you another example. How did we build, or how did we connect more people to electricity? In 2013, when we came into office, we had 2.3 million people connected to electricity. Today, we have 8.7 million people connected to electricity. How? We again changed the connection model. You require to pay 70,000 before you are connected in 2013. Today, we connect everybody for free, and we have built in a small percentage into your monthly bill to cover the cost of the 70,000 over a period of 7 years. So that's how we have managed to expand. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say what is required in Kenya is the person to make the simple decisions to move our country to the next level. And that is what we will provide in Kenya Kwanza. We have the experience for it, and we have the capacity to make those decisions. I wish we had not started the BBI story. If we had implemented the Big Four plan, good people sitting in this room, we would be very far as a country. You have discussed the matter of health, for example. If we had passed the law in 2017 after the election on universal health coverage, today every Kenyan would be covered, would have a health insurance scheme. We just passed the law this year after the BBI collapse. That's when we found time to pass the law that we would have passed in 2018. It's never too late to make the right decision anyway. So we've passed the law, and now we are rolling out the new rates, which are, I think there's a bit of discussion, which is good, and it is healthy, where everybody now will pay a percentage of their income. I think it's only fair, you know, that the deputy president who earns $1 million shillings should pay 1.5% of their salary, and maybe his employer another 1.5% of their salary. So 3% of what the deputy president earns then becomes 30,000. If you are asked to pay 30,000 for health insurance, good people, when you are earning $1 million, surely, I think it's only fair. Instead of the deputy president paying 1,700. I mean, we just have to be reasonable people. But that law, we could have done it in 2018 or 2017. We didn't do it, but we have done it. I am very confident that by the end of this year, we will have tripled the collection on NHIF. When we came into office, I remember, in 2013, we were collecting about 900 million shillings every year. When we slightly adjusted after fighting with all the other people I don't want to mention, we took the collections from 900 to 3.3 billion every month. Today, we are collecting about 60 billion every year on NHIF. We can easily take it to 150 billion shillings every year. And we can actually completely have a universal health insurance scheme in Kenya, which removes the burden from even the people in the private sector space of having to pay medical cover for their employees. Because if we leverage on the economies of scale, where every Kenyan can pay a percentage of their income, then we can be able to deploy health in a much more efficient, effective, and in an affordable manner. So we believe that with a bottom-up approach, we should be able to deploy our capital effectively, public resources we have. We should be able to make sure that we create jobs using the deployment of that capital in the agricultural sector, in the SME sector. And we should be able to expand the market for everybody. And the fourth item, we should be able to ease the chasing of taxes from a few people by making sure that we have a bigger base, we have more taxpayers, and therefore increase the efficiency of tax collection through digitization. Today, we don't collect almost 40% of VAT. We don't collect 40%. We can collect another 250 billion shillings every year just by digitizing the collection of taxes. I am very confident that that is the space we will be able to cover. There is absolutely no reason why we are collecting 14% of our GDP. We can easily move it to 22 or 23% of our GDP, and we should be collecting between 2.5 and 2.8 trillion shillings instead of the 1.6, 1.7 we are collecting at the moment. That way, in my opinion, we can reduce the appetite on borrowing. We can reduce the appetite on borrowing, and we can begin the journey to build and run our affairs more on our taxes and less on borrowing. But it starts with the bottom. Let me say two things so that I can conclude my remarks. We have mentioned here about creating jobs using increasing productivity in our agricultural sector, building on agro-processing, building on value addition to create jobs, and that chain. Increasing access to credit and incomes in our SME sector, create more entrepreneurs, create more jobs. We also must deploy our resources in the infrastructure space to produce more jobs. When we sat down with experts, they told us the easiest place to create more jobs is in the housing space. And that's why one of our pillars of the Big Four was housing. The housing pillar was not about houses. It was about jobs. Houses were a byproduct. The real space we were looking for there is jobs. All we needed to do is to provide an off-take mechanism under the housing, by creating a housing fund. It is still pending. The housing fund challenge is still pending. It's a very small, there's a very small thing we need to do in that space. And we will unlock resources because the commitments that came to our Department of Housing was between 3.5 and 4 trillion commitments, Kenya shillings, people who were ready to invest close to 4 trillion in the housing space. But they needed assurance that when they complete the building of this house, they needed assurance that there will be somebody to buy, and that person has the capacity to repay, and therefore there was need for us to provide an off-take plan by creating a housing fund. Imagine we were unable to create a housing fund that would provide the mechanism for us to stimulate the housing program so that we can actually unleash what we were actually looking for, the jobs. So I promise that within the deliverables on my 100 days is to make sure that we have a housing fund and an off-take mechanism that will unlock the 4 trillion of investment and create the jobs from the affordable housing program. We have managed, we have tried, we have managed out of the 500,000 houses we were supposed to do, we have tried, I think we've managed about 2,000. You know, as a percentage of what we were supposed to do, I don't want to say we failed. I mean, it's up to you to judge whether we failed or we succeeded. And it's a very simple thing. That's why I'm telling you, we need the leadership with a focus to make the small decisions that will change Kenya. We've always talked about this tremendous potential. But as Vimal said here, we can be at the potential for 50 years unless we make the right decisions. And the right decisions are not necessarily very complicated. In fact, whenever I talk to people and I ask them how we manage to do the roads and how we manage to do the electricity, they tell me, if these decisions are this simple, why haven't they been made? But that's how it is. So, finally, we have to think about the whole space around savings. Today, as a country, our savings is about 7, maybe 7.5, maybe 8 at most % of our GDP. The reason why we borrow from China is because their savings is 55% of their GDP. We have to rethink and rework the whole space of building a savings culture in our country. I mean, many of the people, all the people that have a pay slip, know that there is a 200 shillings on their pay slip to NSSF. I'm not saying, I'm saying 200 Kenya shillings. It's not $200, 200 Kenya shillings. I mean, anybody in their rightful mind, how can anybody say 200 shillings is a saving? It's very foolish, if I may say. So we have to rethink about how to build our savings so that we can run our development, we can do our investments on the basis of the savings that we have. We have to rethink the whole NSSF concept. I remember I sent our Minister for Labor to Uganda to look at their social security. Uganda, you pay 10% of your salary, and 5%, your employer pays 5%. So your first charge on your salary is your saving. That's why Uganda has built the largest social security in Eastern Central Africa. Tanzania has done the same. The whole parliament in Dodoma was built using their money from Social Security. And they not only use that money to fund their own development, they also benefit their own people. The interest we are paying for loans to other countries because we have borrowed their savings, we can pay that interest to our own Kenyans if we borrowed from their savings as a government. And we can create a bigger pool of resources that we can borrow at reasonable rates to drive our development. Again, we need to make the decisions that will put that in place, and I commit with my team that those are the decisions we will make. Finally, we must deal firmly and decisively with corruption, conflict of interest, and state capture. We must deal firmly. We must be clear that the fight against theft of public resources cannot be a subjective fight, because then we lose it. It must be a fight that is based on the rule of law. You've said here that our judiciary get I saw your number, 0.6% of the budget. The standard worldwide is 2.25 of our budget. That's why disputes in the business space take forever. That's why corruption cases take forever. And therefore, justice delayed become justice denied. We must operationalize the judiciary fund. And I will operationalize the judiciary fund day one. That is the first signature that I will put. So that we can free the judiciary to discharge its mandate. So that the judiciary can deal with disputes. So that the judiciary can deal firmly, decisively with corruption cases. I do not understand how anybody in their right senses, instead of operationalizing the judiciary fund and getting the judiciary to discharge its mandate, independently, anybody could be imagining that you need an ombudsman appointed by the executive to supervise the judiciary so that the judiciary become subjective to the executive. It is madness. Anybody saying that we need to change the law so that the judiciary can now operate not independently but supervised by the executive is taking us, I don't know in which direction. Number two, the entire criminal justice system, because the office of the IG is an independent office in the Constitution, independence must include financial independence. If you do not have financial independence, your independence is meaningless. If you still have to depend on money from the office of the president to run an independent office of the IG and the DCI and the rest of it, we are told he who pays the piper calls the tune. That's why we have all these cases. There is a legitimate concern that the office of the DCI has been weaponized, not to discharge the mandate it has in the Constitution, but is being used as a weapon to fight the people you don't like. So, day one, I will sign the instrument to appoint an accounting officer in the office of the IG so that their budget is no longer in the office of the president, their budget goes to the office of the IG, and they have financial independence, and they can go after whatever crook they want, they can go after whatever criminal they have without seeking permission from any person who is paying their bills. So, simple decisions that need to be made to get this country moving. And I am very, very, very clear in my mind that we can transform this country in a very short while, in a very short time. And we can stop being the potential and be the reality that we should be. When I talk about that whole farming space, this man, Vimalsha, has been talking to us about contract farming for edible oil crops. And that goes into the space I was talking about, getting the product, putting money in that space around farmers. Why? Because today we import 170 billion of food items into this country. 170 billion. I think edible oils alone is somewhere between 60 and 70 billion. Yet, we can grow it in Kenya. So, we already have a market for what we are increasing the productivity of our farmers. We already have a market for what they will produce. So, I think I have said enough. And I want to ask this room that the very beautiful things that you have laid out here, from our perspective, we believe that we do not have the resources to do everything, but we have the resources to jumpstart and to create the first step and the momentum to be able to do the rest of the things. And we are looking forward to your partnership. I am looking forward to working with you so that we can make these decisions together, and we can all expand our tax base. We do not have to weaponize the KRA to go after people we don't like. We can get the KRA to professionally collect taxes so that we can fund our development and fund our progress and make sure that we have a nation that leaves nobody behind, and we have prosperity that is shared by the 50 million people in our country. I thank you.
Wow. It has been an interesting session, having the two input from our leaders, from the private sector and from the presidential candidate. And what really comes out is that the work of today is the history of tomorrow, and we are its makers. Let us all strive to be mad, as Vimal always tells us, and that means let us go out and make a difference and be partners in growing the economy. To that, I'll request we make 4 atamas to appreciate the speakers, and then I'll request after that to have Engineer Bath, who's the chair of KEPSA Foundation, to take us through the plenary. But Adipi, there will be some questions that we'll request for your participation and the entire team, and then we will then have the closing remarks. So we'll request for your patience as we're almost done. Let us do the 4 atamas. We go atama, 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 atama. Engineer Bath, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Deputy President, for the words that you've given us. I know you told us that you have a busy day today, and we've gone slightly beyond the time that you gave us. So I'd just like from you, how much more time do I have so I can manipulate the time and use it efficiently?
I still need 5 minutes of your time.
Right.
For my good brother, Sadia, there's something he needs to say.
Okay.
And then maybe another 10, 15 minutes max.
Good. Okay. Mheshimiwa Honorable Mudavadi, I think it's good you give us that everything, and then I take the questions all inclusive, rather than try and play around. So karibu, and then you give me the time.
Thanks, Obab, Mr. Deputy President, and the KEPSA team and leadership. Good morning. Actually, I don't have too much to say because I believe the Deputy President has given a fairly broad perspective of what we think and what we hope we can do together with yourselves and other players in our economy. But let me just reiterate that we definitely want an economy that works for all. That is the important thing. A few days ago, the DP came out with this phrase, I think it was at his delegates conference, that it is not bottom versus up. It is bottom up. All right, so I think that message should sink. That in this process, this dialogue that we are engaging in, we are not trying to create a division between the cadres of our economic players. We want to try and create a synergy that will make sure that we work in harmony, big or small, slender or broad. That is important. We need to work together. We need to prioritize our resource allocation, and I think that has come out very, very clearly. We have seen that sometimes we deploy our resources where they're not properly utilized. We want to create the institutions that are recognized as essential to function. He has talked of the IG. We want to be able to say that can the real IG step forward? Because right now, if you say you want the IG to step forward, who actually steps forward? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Is the Auditor General properly funded? What was this magic figure in the budget that the Office of the Auditor General gets 3 billion? The EACC gets 3 billion. The Director of Public Prosecution gets 3 billion. The DCI was up to a little bit, about 6 billion. And then the judiciary, the figure has constantly stood at about 15 billion. Right? So what was the rationale that all these entities that are involved in the criminal justice system or in the justice system have a standard figure? If you ask, would you say that there's a basis for it? If you go to court, you'll find it very difficult to win a case if the Auditor General's report is not complete, especially when it involves public resources. But you ask the Auditor General today, for the last several years, the figure allocated to that office has just been about 3 billion Kenya shillings. Let's look at the pending issues around delays of county governments in terms of doing their audit reports, the 47 of them. Then look at the parastatal sector, what has happened. So clearly, our hands are full, and we want to be able to say that as Kenya Kwanza, we are ready to partner with you and partner with other Kenyans so that we can make these steps. Let us move forward and be able to change the situation. We have seen a decline of the cooperative movement in this country. You will remember how powerful this entity was when we talk of the savings culture and what we can do. You really can come across a situation where you say that that sector has grown from what it was much earlier. So we have challenges, and we want to reach a stage where if you call a public rally in Nairobi on a weekday, we want to be in a situation where you'll have a problem getting people to attend your public rally. That is what we want to see. But right now, you know what it takes. Sometimes you don't even have to call it. You just have to make it a small appearance. And you become a movie star in a given area. And this reflects the number of people who are out there who need jobs. And that is why we say Kenya Kwanza. It's not really about expansion of the leadership and so forth. Let us move away from guaranteeing leaders jobs. Let us guarantee Kenyans jobs. Let us make sure that our decisions are underwriting several jobs for the people who really need them out there. We believe we have a package that we can offer to the people of Kenya. We want to have strong democratic institutions. We want a strong financial system that works. We want a private sector that is happy to partner with the government and the people of Kenya. You are not the opposition, plain and simple. The private sector is not the opposition. So we must stop treating them as an opposition. We must treat them as partners. We must really open that dialogue window with yourselves and other Kenyans. So as I stand here, working jointly with the chief hustler, as they call him, because it was something that I meditated upon, because we had reached a stage where we are beginning to criminalize relationships. you cannot start painting fellow Kenyans as pariahs. Let our relationship be evidence-based. This is what is important. Let the people who have an issue with the government don't evade tax, but there are ways of finding out whether you are in default, and then deal with it professionally. I was one of the people who set up KRA when I was in the Treasury. Surely we did not anticipate that KRA would be walking into your premises with the police behind them. That was never what was anticipated. Let us strengthen our arbitration processes to buttress the justice system that is talking about. Can we create a situation where we can become a hub for arbitration? Because you as business people, you want to cut the time that you take going to court, trying to process your issues. Can we develop a strong arbitration mechanism? Make this a center of global or regional arbitration so that we can get businesses moving and decisions made very quickly? Yes, we can do it. The brains are here. So I can tell you that tuko tayari kufanya kazi na nyinyi. I don't know which is the better word in Kiswahili. The Swahili experts are here. Obath, you're one of them. You should tell us, is it tenda wajibu wako or is it tekeleza wajibu wako? Yeah, asante sana. I think that's all I can say, but thank you so much for inviting us to be with you this morning, and we look forward to continuous engagement as we go forward. This gentleman was my desk mate in Nairobi School, and that one was my good friend in Kangemi when I stayed there. So we've come from far as well, but I think it has gone well. Thank you so much, good people. Thank you.
Right, I shall make this as brief as we did the last time. Let me ask my technology people to get working. As we did the last time, we shall put up Menti. Please bring out your mobile phones. Please bring out your mobile phones. And I will start the question and answer session once it is up. So on the screen, you will see any other questions. It's a free-flowing presentation. Go to www.menti.com, www.menti.com, and once you're on that page, enter the code 9523 4413. And when you submit it, you will get a screen that asks any other questions. And I will put my name so that you know that it works, but then you please put your questions. So I will just put my name, Obath, and then I'll submit. And you can do several times. You can do several questions. So you see it appears, but you don't know who put it down. You know it is me because it's my name. Currently, there's only one person registered. I can see that in the bottom corner. But as more of you register, we shall be able to tell how engaged you are all here. This room was put up to accommodate roughly 90 people. So I expect to see 90 names on there, the number 90, and people participating. So if you can please put your questions, and Your Excellency, we will share all these questions with your team so you get a feel of what it is that was happening in the room. So, yeah, they begin to come now. But this is only 6 people. You can continue adding questions as you go on. But in the traditional sense, I will allow 3 questions live. So those who have questions they would like to ask, please put your hands up, and I hope you catch my eye, and I'll also make sure it is gender. There's one man here, one. One lady there, 2. A gentleman, 3. And a lady, 4. Let me leave it at that because I know you don't have the time for live questions. But please continue putting your questions on Menti. It's been removed. I don't know why. But if we could have the microphone to go around, the 4 questions, please. Roving mic. We start off with question 1, which was here. And please make it a question, not a lecture. A lot of people like saying, by the way, there's all this that has happened, and by the time it comes to the question, it's 3 minutes. So please, you have 1 minute precisely to do your question. Mr. Mreo.
Thank you very much. I'll not even talk about the protocols, but thank you very much, Mr. Deputy President. You're a farmer, Your Excellency, and you know the cow that produces most milk is the one that you feed first. Everybody has talked about the SME space. I double up as the chairman of the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority and also Economic Diplomacy Sector Board. And we have talked about a sector that employs 80% of this country's workforce. Is not a sector you can ignore. It's that cow that you need. So my request is, I have 3 requests. One is if your government can create a specific ministry that looks after this sector. Because for a long time, we are all in a pool looking for resources that are scarce. Secondly, Your Excellency, is we offer incentives to foreign investors, but we don't offer any incentives to the local investors. And your local investors are the SMEs themselves. They're the manufacturers, they're the ones who actually...
You spent a minute talking. What is your question?
Yeah, no, I'm making a statement. I request...
No, we are asking questions. Please stick to a question. We don't have time.
Right.
His Excellency has got places to go. He has given us his time. So ask your question, please.
My question is your third order, executive order, going to resource the micro and small enterprise authority so that their funds, as you have seen, if you have signed the first 2 orders, can you make the third one, the SME authority funding? Thank you. Okay,
good. Second question was over there. Thank you. Please introduce yourself so that they know where you're coming from.
My name is Eva Arikia, a Kenyan, also work in the financial sector. My question, I did see representation or discussion about 50.1% of the population of Kenya, which is women, especially in this day when we are scared of even being drivers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for honoring the time. Third question. Who is number 3? Over here.
Your Excellency, good morning. Nick Nesbitt. A quick question, if you could give us some insight into decision-making. A lot of people have said that it's difficult to get things moving in Kenya because we are too democratic. And as CEOs, we look at a leader, and she or he decides this is the way things are going to go. The interesting part of what you talked about was we will give independence to different institutions. Can you talk about how that would work to ensure that we are able to implement all the good things that you're talking about? Thank you.
Thank you. And then the 4th one was over on that corner. Then Your Excellency, I'll allow you to respond, and then you can tell us whether you have more time after that, and then you do a second round.
My name is Zuhura Odhiambo from KEPSA Gender Sector Board and also a business consultant. The issue about the 50%, I know it's been asked before, and in your leadership, how are you seeing the placement of the 2/3 gender rule? We are seeing the private sector already putting different aspects in that, and would also like the same to be achieved on the other side. But on the MSME perspective, the VAT reduction, it's actually what is actually killing us in the business. As much as we're looking at many people paying tax, what about your first time in office, your first 100 days, looking at the reduction from the 16%, maybe to 11% to enable the business actually grow the economy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The 4 questions, and then we shall proceed.
Thank you very much. Let me start with my good friend here, whether I will consider the SME authority. I think we have enough structures in place to be able to roll out the 50 billion commitment on making sure that we have access to credit by SMEs. We have already the Biashara Fund. We already have all the other things. What I will do is to make sure that we don't create additional bureaucracy. We must make it simple on what access will look like. We must make it simple. So the fund on accessing credit to micro and small enterprises will be deployed alongside, and we will want to delocalize it to every constituency. We do not want to create a fund in Nairobi. And in fact, my commitment to the public is that we will delocalize it to every ward. In fact, not constituency, to every ward, so that there is a funding mechanism in every ward. I had a discussion with President Museveni, and he runs a very effective fund called Prosperity Fund, and it is localized. The reason why we have a challenge of eggs from Uganda, the reason why we have a challenge of milk from Uganda is largely attributed to the productivity of their farmers because of the Prosperity Fund. That is localized. So my team is working with what has worked elsewhere, and we will be able to localize or locate that fund in a place that creates accessibility at the ward. And for your information, it's going to be in our first budget. The first budget we will have that fund. Women. The people, in fact, if you heard me, the example I gave is about a lady called Shiro. Many of the people who have no access to credit are women. They have no access to property. They have no access, and primarily these are the movers and shakers at the bottom of the pyramid, whether it is in agriculture or in our SME sector. And if there are the largest beneficiaries of our bottom-up economic plan is women. That's at a business level. At the level of the 2/3 gender that we have all been working on, if there is one place I will support the changing of the Constitution is on the 2/3 gender rule. That is the place I will accept for us to change the Constitution. I will have a problem with changing the Constitution to guarantee positions for leaders, as Musalia said. If there is a guarantee, we must give. If it is a guarantee to the millions of young people by making sure that we have the programs that will guarantee them jobs. On the subject of, where was that question again? Yes. Are we too democratic to be able to get things moving? Good people, we can never be too democratic. We rolled out the programs we had, even with the democracy that is in Kenya. We did 700 kilometers of our railway. We've done 10,000 kilometers. We have not had a problem. We've built 150 technical training colleges around the country. We've increased the number of students in our TVETs from 80,000 to 500,000 today without a challenge. Anybody who tells you this country is too democratic is a dictator. And that is why there are people who imagine that they want to control the judiciary. The day we accept BBI to bring an ombudsman so that the president can control the judiciary, we are 90% down the road into a dictatorship. Believe me, you. We cannot afford to go backwards. We can only go forwards. Working with, there is wisdom in having independent institutions so that we can have a system of checks and balances that creates accountability. Nobody should sell you the story of a benevolent dictator. There is nothing called a benevolent dictator. A dictator is a dictator. And we must never run experiments around that space. We can take this country forward by hearing every voice. And we can take this country forward without harassing others. You know, the people of Kenya are intelligent enough to make a decision as to what is right and what is wrong. Let us not underestimate the intelligence of the people in the street. Even though they may be in slippers, I tell you, they are not fools. So, we must never run any experiment about our democracy. It is what works. It's what works in the world. It's what works best. And nobody should tell us, oh, you know, Africans, you have to be a bit dictatorial for them. No. You know, in other words, we are accepting that we are lesser human beings. That's an insult. Good people. Tunaelewana. I have been deputy president for 9 years, and that's why I want to answer the next question. I've been deputy president for 9 years. I can tell you from where I sit that there is nothing that you cannot achieve if you have a plan. All these, oh, you know, the judiciary is a stumbling block, I don't know what, you know, we are too democratic, are excuses when you don't have clarity of where you want to take the country. We've done the many things we've done with the judiciary being in place, with all these people, with all the noisemakers, the civil society are also telling us stories. They are telling us you cannot do this. They all become part of what informs us. The civil society have a role to play. The judiciary have a role to play. The legislature have a role to play. Sometimes they cause us problems in the House, but that's the nature of democracy. We just need to call them. Sometimes they take certain decisions out of not having enough information. We just need to get them, explain to them, and in many cases, people who are in these offices, whether in the judiciary, whether it is in the legislature, they are not fools. They can see sense where there is sense. Let me, I see somebody has asked me here, you have been in leadership for decades. What? Can you go to that place where this gentleman is going? He's going to come up later.
Question was,
Yeah.
you've been in leadership for decades.
Yes.
What will you do that you are not able to do?
Yeah. Good. I have been in leadership, yes. And my track record speaks for itself. I became member of parliament for Eldoret North. If you go to Eldoret North today, I have an outstanding track record from the people of Eldoret North. I challenge you to go and ask them my track record as member of parliament. I was Minister for Higher Education. My record at the Ministry of Higher Education, although it was brief, is, let me just tell you two. Number one, when I went to the Ministry of Higher Education, I found that for 15 years, you had to wait for 2 years to be able to go to college. I worked with the sectors in that ministry, and within 1 year, we had eliminated the backlog. You finish college this year, by June or July, you are in university. Number two, I worked with them on making sure that we re-engineer our education. The reason why today we have 500,000 students in TVET is the program I started when I was Minister for Higher Education in 2010. Because when I went to Ministry of Higher Education, the audit that I was given as a minister is that we have huge gaps in skills and competences, whether it was the technical skills, plumbers, electricians, technologists. And I said then at the ministry, why are we continuing to do the same thing? Why do we have 800 students at the University of Nairobi in the sociology class? You know, today, I want to tell you, because of that program, there are people who are invited to go to university to go and pursue a course, but they opt instead to go to a TVET. It was more expensive to go to a TVET than to go to a university. We have now reversed. Those are some of the things I did in that ministry, so I can account for my time there. When I became Minister for Agriculture, again, my record stands for itself in the transformation in that sector. It is the very first time farmers in this country increased their productivity in the maize sector by almost 20% because President Kibaki allowed me to be able to subsidize fertilizer, which is what everybody does in the world. Unfortunately, that subsidy was removed 2 years ago, and that is why our productivity is going down. I have been deputy president. I can account for my time. In our first term, I am the person who sat down with Michael Kamau, our CS, an engineer, Mosonic. And it is on my table in Karen that we changed the building code. And that's how we have delivered the 10,000 kilometers. It was on my table in Karen that we sat down with Charles Keter and Engineer Kamau, that we worked on changing the model of connection of electricity. And that's why today we have 8.7 million Kenyans connected to electricity because we changed the model. It was on in my table in my office that I sat down with Governor Mahmoud, who was then the chairman of NHIF, that we worked on changing the contributions to NHIF that made it possible for us to move from 900 million to 3.3 billion. And that is part of the transformation that the Jubilee administration can actually roll out. In fact, is going to be the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Unfortunately, I didn't have the same opportunity to work on the Big Four. When my good boss said that he needed to do things differently, and through Executive Order number 1, decided to change the people who could help him to deliver on the Big Four, I don't want to say, what happened. If I had the opportunity to still help President Uhuru Kenyatta deliver on the Big Four, this country would be different. I am very confident. We would be having a housing program. We would not be having 2,000 houses. We would possibly, even if it is on the lower side, we would be thinking of 50, 60, maybe 100,000 houses by this year. We would be looking at an agricultural sector that has better productivity than we have today. I promise you that we would have delivered fully on our universal health coverage. So, we developed the Big Four together. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to assist in delivery of that program. And so, I believe I have the skills and the passion and the ability to make the right commitments and work with, build teams that can change this country. I have a track record of doing it. I believe given an opportunity, I can do it even better at another level. Let me also say that maybe there is the whole issue about a peaceful election. I want to commit here that myself, my brother Musalia, and our team, we are very clear that the people of Kenya must be given the opportunity to make this decision after listening to all of us in a free, fair, and peaceful environment. And we are committed to respect the outcome of the election and the decision of the people of Kenya unequivocally and without conditions. I wish our competitors can do the same. They have never done it in the past. They are yet to do it. I have listened to them carefully. They keep saying, oh, we will accept the results if. When you say if, I mean if in whose judgment? I mean, you should also respect that independent institutions will make their decision, and those independent institutions, if you have a quarrel with it, then there are other institutions that would adjudicate. But you don't say, I will accept the outcome, but if it is not, I will organize demonstration, I will go and swear myself in, I will go and do this. No, that's not how to do it, my friends. So we just have to be very clear on that. I am giving you my commitment here unequivocally, publicly, that I will accept the outcome of the election, whichever way it goes, because elections are not a matter of life and death. We need to make elections about choosing the people who can help us deliver on the transformation of our country and on the progress of our nation without making it a life and death issue. So I wish you people and others can extract the same from our competitors. They have never done it before. I hope they do this time round. So I think that's That's what I wanted to say. Sorry, I have to go, and I really appreciate your time. And I will also take this opportunity to ask for your vote. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Your Excellency, you gave us the time. It's now over. All these questions that are written here, that's why you had this going, will be shared with your team, so you understand the mood in the room, and at least you're able to respond to them in terms of what you do rather than giving us direct response. And on behalf of everybody gathered here, the whole of the business community, and all the people who are part of Mkenya Daima, I would like to sincerely thank you, Your Excellency, and your team for affording us the time today for us to be able to have a dialogue on what the business community expects out of your government as and when, because we are working as partners together, as opposed to what was being talked about earlier, that the business community is the opposition. We are not. We are part of being together with you. So thank you very much, and we wish you your best, all the best in your engagements from today forward.